Yo guys, Paunchy here, and today I want to talk about live looping on the Ableton Push. Now, I do have the Push 3 here with me. However, you can do this on Push 2 and Push 1. However, it is a little trickier, at least for one aspect of what I'm going to talk about. So, I just want to go through some thoughts I had live looping. Sometimes I like to live loop because you don't overthink things, and you can kind of just get to the point and just make some music. However, there are some things you want to think about if you're going to set up a live looping session. So the first thing I would think about is you want all of your tracks to be first off, you want to think of how many tracks you're going to have and you're going to use while you're live looping. And secondly, you want to choose all the sounds for each track. So right here, track 1, I have my drums. And then track 2, I have a saw wave, kind of acting as my bass track. And then on the third track here, I have more of a lead sound. I mean, it's not a lead sound, but like I look at it more of as like a melodic sound or a melody sound specifically. I could do some chords with it too. But in this case, I'm just using it as a melody. So, and then 4 here, I'm not actually going to loop any audio, but I wanted to include this. If you are going to loop audio, and that's providing you have an interface and everything, or you have something plugged into the inputs. The inputs here on the push. Then you can also loop live audio into the push. So, and the procedure is the same for all the tracks, essentially. So, whether it's audio or MIDI. So the first trick that I want to show, I mean, it's not necessarily a trick, you might already know this, you might not, but we want to utilize the capture button here on the Push 3. Now this is kind of a crossroads as far as having the Push 3 versus the older models. The older models do not have a dedicated capture button. However, it just came to my attention, I just looked it up. You can initiate capture by pressing record or holding record and new, and supposedly that will initiate the capture. However, I say supposedly because I haven't actually tried that. I don't have a Push 2 anymore, so I can't test it. But someone please test it. Let me know down below that works. The thing about that is it's a little tougher to do it on the fly. So what I'll show you here, I'll just play a quick beat. So now what I can do is hit the capture button and it'll automatically take what I played and put it into a clip for us. So check it out. And there you go, you have a perfect loop already. I mean, perfect, I guess, is another story, but the thing I like about using the capture button is that it captures all of the nuance of what I played. So if you look at if you look at the hits here in the clip, you'll notice that they're not all exactly on time. They actually have some feel. They're not quantized. Of course, you can quantize it if you want. And that's something you could do, when you're live looping, that's something you could do right after you hit the capture button. Just go ahead and as quickly as you can, once it starts playing, hit the quantize, and then you'll have your quantize beat before the clip is even over. But in my case, I want to capture that actual feel that I played, on the finger drums. So at that point, you've pressed the capture button, you've got your beat going. So then you would come over here to the second track while the beat is playing, of course, and then you would go ahead and hit record. You kind of want to hit record like in advance, like, you know, you don't want to hit record as you start playing. You want to hit record right before you're about to start playing and then start playing. So I'll go ahead here. Okay, so you'll notice right as soon as I stopped playing, you'll notice that the length was already set. That's one thing I forgot to mention. So before you start all of this, before you start live looping, you want to kind of think in advance like how long your loops are going to be, your clips. So that would involve using the fixed length section over here. So I just set it to 4 bars. You know, that's totally personal preference. You know, some people like longer loops, some don't. So I just went ahead and set it to 4 bars because I knew that the phrase that I was going to play was actually 4 bars. So that way you don't have to mess with pressing the record button like before you're done playing, which can be really tricky. Like for example, you know, I was doing these arpeggios. It's really hard to do these arpeggios and then come over here like as you're playing it and like, you know, try and press that, and then you have to stretch your fingers or whatever. You know, using the fixed length, you can just have perfect loops every single time. The reason I bring up the record thing is because if you're just going to do some simple loops, nothing crazy, you know, like this. I mean, not that that's crazy, but, you know, my fingers are busy, let's put it that way. And if you didn't have fixed length on, you could just play as long as you wanted. And then right before you're done playing, you would have to hit the record button and it'll automatically start looping from wherever you press the button. So in a sense, essentially it's not fixed. So that's one way to do it, but I find that fixed length is way easier when you're trying to live loop. And then so at this point we're looping, we've got my beat looping, we've got my bass looping, so I would come over here and just to my 3rd track and maybe just freestyle. You know, or I could go ahead and record another clip there, and that's basically the idea. You know, those are important things that you have to remember when you're live looping, because if you don't set those things up in advance, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure, really. Or at least, you know, you wouldn't be able, you would have pauses in your live looping. You know what I mean? Like if you're trying to actually live loop in front of people or for a video or something like that, then, you know, you want to have everything set up in advance. That way, at that point, you can just flow, you know. Just switch, you know, you've got your clips playing, you can switch over to this track, you know, and add something. That was obviously not even on time, but you know, I just wanted to demonstrate how easy it is at this point to just add clips onto whatever you have going. So anyway, that's pretty much that. I hope that helped you guys. By no means was this a comprehensive live looping video, but I was just messing around with it earlier and I wanted to kind of discuss some thoughts about live looping. So hope that helps you guys, and I will see you in the next video.